Buffalo or bison?
Yes.
One of the things that we try to instill in people is less is more with this animal. Everything we do, everything we try to do, if we force it, it bites us.
Okay, I'm Dick Gehring from Mound Ridge, Kansas, Black Kettle, Buffalo.
Oh, my name's Reese Gehring. I'm Dick's oldest son. And I got started in this because he's had these since I was born. Actually got him a couple weeks before I was born, his first set.
2 days.
So, 2 days. 2 days before I was born.
How big is that bull of yours?
I'm guessing right now he's just starting to work and he's a little worked down. We didn't get him propped up real hot for the winter. I'd say he's probably 24, 25. Usually at the end of the year, when he's worked down pretty far, he's like 22.75, 23.50, something like that.
He looks healthy right now.
Yeah, he's in good shape. To me, he's in his fighting clothes. He's not butterball fat, but he's not thin. He's ready to go. He'll be able to hold his own and I think keep up the pace for a long time.
How old is he? Junior
there is gonna think that he's gonna get a whole lot of fun, but I think he's just gonna do a lot of running around. That bull is, I think he's 7. This guy's just 2-year-old now. He's got a lot of good qualities. Well, we got him with a group now. I mean, there's such a size difference that there's not much of a fight. There's not much of a problem. But soon enough, we'll be rotating him out, big bull out, and this guy can already. The cows are used to him. He's used to the cows, and he'll fit right in. This pen setup is not perfect by any means. I grew up in the stockyards, and so when we built to have bison, that's kind of what we mimicked, and that's what we knew. If I was to rebuild it, it wouldn't look like this. But
what would it look like?
I'm not sure, because I've spent 40 years doing this, and we've rebuilt segments every year. I mean, we've made improvements continually, and so everybody asks, what's the perfect corral design? Yeah, I don't know what that looks like yet. We're still working on it. But what we like to do is take the group and we stair-step down in size. So we stair-step down in size from the catch pen to a little smaller, to a little smaller, to a little smaller, to an alleyway, to an approach, coming all the way into the squeeze chute. The segments just keep getting smaller. Along the way, we will also be stair-stepping down the number of animals. So we'll catch the main group, bring them into a smaller portion. For this pen, for example, then we'll take part of those, bring them across the alley into a smaller pen, and we'll take part of those and bring them up into the system, work them, bring the next group up in the system, work them, go get another draft and do the same thing, and next thing you know, you're done. And the slower you go, the faster you get done. Kind of hard to get your head around that sometimes, but really that is the way it goes. If we do a good job of not getting the animal excited to begin with, they stay calm, we stay calm, no blood, no foul, everybody's happy. This may not be exactly where they want to be, but we get through it. We don't use narrow alleyways, and we don't try to single these animals out. Every now and then you'll have a bull or you'll have a cow that's just kind of an old rip that you try to keep away from everybody else. We will separate those individuals. But they like to move in groups, and so our alleyways are 6 foot wide coming up to the squeeze chute. They're 6 foot wide, 8 foot, 9 foot long. and we just stair step that size down, and that enables them to move in pairs or in threes, and so they're not confined and they're not alone. Those are the two things they don't like. So the less we pressure them and the less we poke and prod, the better, and the easier they just move on their own. You open a gate, step back, they move through. So it's less is more. Like I said, we'll bring a dozen or 15 into here. We like to keep that number low for two reasons. One, it's just a whole lot easier to handle them. Two, they keep from circling in. If you ever see a big group come in, they just continually circle and circle and circle. I think the less dominant ones are trying to get to the center for protection. They're all trying to figure out their place. They're all looking for that mean old gal that likes to stick a horn in their rear, and so everybody's just anxious and moving. When you get a small number like that, everything calms down. Everything stays cool, calm, and collected because they can all kind of see what's going on. So then we'll take, say, half of those, 6 or 8 of those out of this pen. We'll come up the alley. We've got another gate here we can swing to just kind of stair step them down if they're moving a little quick. We've got that gate about 15 feet past the turn. It gives them plenty of room to move forward. Gives us time to get up here and close this gate. They come back, we sweep the gate around, we take them up. This was designed to cordon off and to section into groups. There's a latch on this one gate that's rusted. Plunger doesn't work anymore because we never use them. They run up into the tub and they stop. Somebody's behind this gate when they come in, bring them on around, and then when they come around to here, again, this is a little smaller, so we're probably 10 by 10-ish. That's a 6 by 8 section there, and then there's a triangle section down there. And so we just keep stair stepping them down in size of pen as well as in numbers of animals. This one wall will collapse if need be. If we got one that just wants to spin and doesn't want to go in the chute, we can create that narrow alleyway where it's got only one way to go. Otherwise, we don't need it. Typically, working 300-400 head a day, we might use that, 3-4 times at the most. It just isn't something we use much of, but it's really handy to have when the time's right. Opens up, they step in, closes it, done.
So how long does it take for, let's say, one animal or all the animals to get from one end of the system to the other by the time they're ready to let back out on pasture?
Yeah, we're getting the whole herd done in 4 or 5 hours. You're probably putting 30 or so through an hour.
The moving time from start to finish, if we were just doing one animal, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Just that would be the whole, if we were just doing one. Well, if you have somebody in stages the whole time, you can keep cranking them out. Depending on what you're doing in the chute and what you're doing afterwards, meaning how many sorts you have, a couple of minutes a piece.
Something that really helps the stress of the animal is having multiple options for them to go to and let them sort themselves. So having one pen to go in for the herd, only one pen to sort in, only one pen for cows, one pen for calves. We let the little groups that they dictate come through the system on their own, and that keeps the stress level down. And that way they dictate it themselves, and that's been huge for this ranch to really bring the stress level down, make handling easier, make it easier on the animals, and that's where the slower speed makes you actually go faster.
We've learned a lot over the years. When we first started, we thought we had to sort calves to make sure the calves don't get hurt. Well, looking back on it, the way that we went about it, we did need to sort to keep the calves from getting hurt.
Why did you think you needed to sort?
Well, that's what everybody told us, and it came true. We saw calves getting hurt. We saw cows ripping each other. And at the end of the day, It was our fault. It was the way we approached it. It was the way we were handling them. It was the system that we had for them. Now, we've learned how to handle them much better. We don't get them excited. We don't get them mad. And we have a system that allows a free flow. We don't stage them very far back because we can only go as fast as the guy on the squeeze chute. We could have all 200, 300, whatever you're doing that day, we could have them all lined up in a row. There's no point in it because we're not getting done any quicker than the guy on the squeeze chute, letting one out. So that's why we take small drafts. They don't stand in waiting very long. They get moved through really quick. There's not a lot of stress and strain. There's very little competition for a safe place to stand, and because of that now, we don't sort at all. I said earlier, you have that one bull or maybe that cow that's kind of a mean old rip. We will single them out and move them through, but now we kind of let them sort themselves. We'll let a draft come through, and if they come through together, they're probably comfortable together. And so then we'll take that draft and just move them through. There'll be cows, calves, yearlings, there'll be a mix in there. And since, I don't know, I shouldn't say this and jinx ourselves, but in the last, I don't know how many years, we haven't really had much of an injury.
By letting that be our sort gate.
Yeah, doing the sorting out the front of the chute. It's a small group based on acreage. We try to run 10 to 12 acres per cow-calf pair. There's only about 12 cows in here with calves, and there's another 12 or so 2-year-old heifers getting bred for the first time. And we'll keep it to that. And this ground was all farm ground at one time, and for about 100 years. And so we planted basically the big five, the CRP type of grass, big blue, little blue, side oats, Indian grass, and switchgrass. Well, what we've seen come over time is a lot of different species that I guess were lying in wait. We don't know that we planted them. Getting seed is always a little bit of a crapshoot. There's always stuff in there that you didn't buy, whether you wanted it or not. But we've got a lot of indigenous species that have come back that we don't think we planted. One of them that's really a cool thing is called Canlo switchgrass. It's indigenous to the lowlands of Kansas. It's a variety of switchgrass that has a really deep taproot, and it grows down in the bottoms in the lowlands. We've got a aquifer that's probably got water at from the lowest part, probably 10 to 15 feet down. We got water, and so those taproots are down into the aquifer. And when we did some rotational grazing back in the day, we used that area by itself as one of the paddocks, and we probably hit it at least 3 times, if not 4 times harder than we did any of the others. All the flowers and all the wildflowers you see, we didn't plant those. That came later in those kinds of programs. So it's been kind of cool watching this restoration project, if you will, unfold. We're getting to where the grass is really resilient and prolific within its own right. This cake we fed, they came running because they like it, not because they need it. They're doing just fine all on their own, but we continue to do this on a somewhat regular basis, maybe once, twice a week at the most, but just to keep them coming, because accidents happen, trees fall on fence, people leave gates open, whatever. You rattle a bucket and they come running to it. That's an easy way to get them back in, a lot easier than trying to push them in with 4-wheelers or horses. There's a lot of hype and a lot of excitement about rotational grazing, and I will tell you, I've been there, done that, and there's probably nothing better for the ground and for the grass, especially replanted grass, to help it stool out and to help it to become robust and fill in all the holes. That was the best thing we could have done. But we're also dealing with a wild animal that does a really good job of rotating on their own. And I always tell the people when they get excited about it to be careful that they don't start something they don't want to finish, because the buffalo will finish it. When they're ready to move and you're not there, they're going to move, and they're going to create a lot of problems for you. So we have taken out a lot of fences, and we do some rotating, but it's not intense. I mean, it's not every third day or that type of thing. It's maybe, I don't know, once a month or something of that nature. And so we're still able to get some of the benefit out of that, but it's much easier on us, and it's easier on them. They're not so demanding. They're not looking always to go. They're pretty content, by themselves. I think a lot of good can be done with rotational grazing. One of the challenges that I see in some of these schools, and it's not necessarily the school's fault, it's perception, and it's what the student receives, what they interpret. And in their mind, it's really easy for them to equate that we're going to be growing more grass, and so that means we can be running more animals. Well, no, you're at this school because you're behind, your grass is suffering, and you're trying to figure out how to do better. Well, if you grow more grass and then you just get more animals, you've got the same problem you had before. You just have more animals with the same problem. What we have found is if you're growing more grass and you're growing better grass, mom is hitting on all sixes. She's doing really well, which means she's milking really well, which means that calf is growing and doing real good. So in the end, your benefit comes with the same number of animals but a higher weaning weight, much better production, and lots of residual going into the winter, where you're not doing supplemental feeding because you have to. You're doing supplemental feeding to keep them coming back to you when something stupid happens. I'm not sure what that's about, but I imagine he'll lose it there after a while. You asked what native species we have here. Well, we have a few. We replanted it, so we're probably only missing about 200 species of grass, forage, and sedges to call it a native prairie. We'll never see that again here. But it's getting better all the time. But, the grass in different area carries different nutrients, and a lot of that depends on what's in the ground, and so you have to adapt to that and get them what they need. Switchgrass. This is the stuff that's indigenous to the lowlands of Kansas. It's just a variety of switchgrass. And this stuff will get taproot down 20 feet, much deeper than most. And our aquifer down here, Eccles Beds, is probably the top of it. So this is the area that we've hammered when we did a lot of rotational grazing. This area, just this little strip here, got used 4 times what the other strips did, and it's because this stuff grew so hard and so fast. These are all last year's calves, yeah, and the smaller ones kind of had a pretty tough start out west in the drought, and it shows. But some of the other bigger ones were also out west, just with better grass, and some came from right here, from that group of cows you looked at earlier. I got started butchering these animals just privately back in 1980, and in '83 I purchased a locker and then started doing it as a business. And from there, met Ray Smith, and he got a lot of us in Kansas started back in the day. Kind of a pioneer. He had buffalo in the '60s, long before it was cool. But started out just as actually started out as a monetary thing. I wanted a protein that not everybody else had, and wanted to kind of set myself apart that way. And like with most of the membership out there, it turns into a much bigger thing than that. And so now, we're running a couple hundred cows and feeding quite a few for the commercial market, and we're hitting it pretty much every day.
Buffalo or bison?
Yes, we actually raise buffalo and then we sell bison meat. So it's both. They are technically American bison. They are technically not buffalo, but everyone knows them as buffalo. When the settlers came over, they called them something that they knew was close to, and that was buffalo. And that's everyone's understanding of what they are. They are the American buffalo. We take both names. Some people don't take both names. They kind of stick with bison, but we have never strayed away from, because we want to make sure we connect with the people and what they know them as. So we do both. They are both.
There's a lot of advantages, a lot of bison advantages that the NBA talks about, and there's advantages that we don't talk about, that we don't even understand yet. But such a fantastic animal that evolved with the grass. They evolved with the continent here, and it evolved with them, and so they're very well in sync. They do such a great job of utilizing grass through the summer, but even a better job than other species of utilizing the grass through the winter. The adults go dormant, and their nutritional needs are less in the wintertime, which enables them to be able to survive on what's available. They are also able to break down that lignin in the grass that's really thick and really strong at that time of year. Other species can't do that, and so they're getting more out of it than what we think. That's just one of the advantages. If we provide what they need, it's a hands-off deal. You go fishing during calving season because you're not going to help them anyway, and they really don't need any help. And so you go fishing during that time, and in the winter time when they're making good use of that hard lignin and not needing as much, you're sitting by the fire reading a book, as opposed to out stomping around every day feeding all day long. And that's provided you left enough out there for them to have to eat in the winter time. Those are just a couple of the things. You watch this animal, and you watch the hierarchy, and you watch the social structure that they have, and how they take care of themselves, and how they take turns with a nursery with the little ones, how they take the list goes on. I could talk for hours and hours about that kind of stuff, but it all ties together extremely well, and the animal coincides so well with the ground, with the grass, with wildlife. That's one of the things I always tell people when they get their first buffalo. I said, well, pay attention to what happens on your place. If you take care of the grass, and there's plenty of grass out there available, watch what happens with the wildlife, because you're going to see species return you haven't seen in a while. And it's usually about 5 years, and they call back and they said, you remember when you said that about wildlife? Yep. I said, you weren't kidding. I said, no, it's amazing. And the rats, the rodents use the fur, the wool that they're shedding. Some of these haven't completely shed off yet, but they use that. It's so insulating they stay warm without a whole lot of excess feed. I'm talking about the rodents in the nests, and the birds use that fiber as well. It creates nests. There's a lot of guys that are kind of birders, and they pay attention that the nests now, since they've gotten buffalo there, they're so much stronger that they don't deteriorate. They hold together so much better. It's a lot of little things like that makes a difference.
Monetarily wise, if somebody's coming from raising beef traditionally, is there an advantage to going to buffalo, or is it kind of a wash?
Oh no, it depends on your approach. If you insist on doing it like you've been doing the cattle mode and the operation and maximizing, optimizing, and pushing the limit, which those guys do a great job of, this animal doesn't respond so well to that. So if you learn how to manage them and you learn how to let them manage themselves, your profit potential is much greater. If you insist on doing it the way you were doing it, you're going to have problems. It doesn't work so well.
Working with an animal that is wild, you start to find out that, I know we've said it a couple times, less is more. And that works out really well for me when I've got multiple things going on in my life. You talked about, certain times of the year we're not doing near as much as other industries are because they're hands off. It fits in great. That's why I'm so drawn to this animal. The story, the way we work with them and not at them, that melds perfectly with what we want to do.
For the average person watching, they're going to be thinking, well, I'm not ever probably going to raise buffalo, but what is something that they could do to support the industry?
One of the coolest things about this, we have partners, and those partners come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. It can come in a ranching partner, it can come in a cooperative that sells your product, etc. The best partner we have is the consumer, and they're the ones making a lot of decisions for us, and those people that are eating this product are enabling us to expand and enabling us to grow the number of these animals and return them to the grasslands and watch the grasslands flourish and return back to what they used to be. That was such an unbelievable dance between the two, the animal and the ecosystem, where the animal is part of the ecosystem. But watching that all come back together and flourish is an unbelievably exciting thing, and the consumer is a huge part of that. So, if your situation does not enable you to raise the animal, enjoy it on the supper table, and you'll help everybody continue this process.
Go visit your local ranch. Go visit a ranch. Maybe it isn't even local, but go visit them. Go see what they're doing. Go understand their story, and tell people about it. We can promote websites and regional associations and national associations all we want, and we will. There's Kansas Buffalo Association obviously in our region, and the National Bison Association helps us out a lot. But just go help tell the story. Go see them. Go get enamored with them as much as we are, and you'll figure out pretty quick we're pretty enamored with them. But just go see them. Go be a part of it, and just enjoy it as much as we do.
Another way that people can get involved, the National Buffalo Foundation is the primary, basically the sole provider for the Center of Excellence in South Dakota State University that we just formed with them for bison studies. And there's a lot of research projects going on right now, and there will be more in the future, and that all takes money. One way that people can help further the cause is donating money to the National Buffalo Foundation for the Center of Excellence, and we can keep those projects going, those research projects that are designed around the bison specifically. And up until now, we followed all the cattle protocols because that's all we had. It was as close as we could do, and we knew there were differences, and we changed modes. But we had to start at that location because that's all we had, and we were glad we had what we had. But there's enough. It's a different species, and there's enough differences in strains, in vaccines, medications, etc., that are really important. That we continue down that road, and that's another way that folks can participate.
What's buffalo taste like, or bison as you sell them?
They taste good. Obviously, we're going to be a little bit biased, but it's a sweet form of beef. They've got a real hearty flavor, but they do actually have a real sweet flavor to them, and
Not gamey.
It doesn't have the gamey taste that some of your wild deer do. It's got a great flavor. Obviously, being that they're kind of a little bit in between beef and deer, low and slow heat when you're preparing that meat is good, but you get that stuff cooked right and it's pretty hard to beat.